What is up, everybody? I have really good news. Well, most of you know that I am a study nut. If I have free time, I'm studying. So, with that being said, uh, for a long time now, I have wanted to basically do a blog of sorts, and it took me a long time to figure out what exactly I wanted to do. But after much deliberation and parsing through life's capabilities and things like that, okay, enough banter. I've got a blog that I've created, and I'm going to bring this guy over so you guys can see it. And bam! So this is the blog. I'll zoom in just a little bit so you guys can see it. So I am on Blogspot, and what you guys can expect from here. So one of the main things that the motivating factor for this particular blog here is the simple fact that there is nothing out there, any real depth of for service provider, and there's not a ton out there for a data center. So the first track that I decided to put together is service provider. Now, what can you expect from this particular blog? Well, quite a few things. For one, if you look right here in the screen, you'll see that I basically state where I'm starting from, which is basically I'm trying to bring up my iOS experience, or my iOS XR experience, to that of my iOS experience. So basically everything that I studied for the CCIE route switch track I need to bring up all those skill levels to be able to do the exact same thing in iOS XR, where it's supported and things like that. Once I have both of them to that point, I can go ahead and then move into, then as I study something in iOS, I'll also learn how to do it in iOS XR. So one of the things that I wanted to do was I didn't want to make this solely specific to a specific track or certification specific. I didn't want to make this CCIE service provider and only focus on the technologies that are in the SP certification realm. I wanted to focus on these guys from the respect of you and I are, both work for a service provider of some type. We both have similar configuration in place. We both have similar technologies in place, but our deployment method might be different, things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build these guys out to where we're going to take a look at exactly how this stuff gets put together. And my ultimate goal here is to go through and build this out from from the basics to the really complicated things and do them on an individual basis. So let me go ahead and draw out exactly what I mean by doing this, because this is going to be the important part to understanding what's going on here. So my intention here, so for instance, we'll start off with, let me just make sure that, okay, that'll work. We're going to start off with IGP. And then from there, we're going to focus underneath that. We'll have all the IGPs. We'll do RIP. We'll do OSPF. We'll do EIGRP. We'll do ISIS. We'll go through all of these routing protocols as we're going through this, and we'll cover each one of these, and then we'll break each one of these down. As it says right here, forming adjacencies, authentication, summarization for both v4 and v6, and then that'll be for everywhere it's applicable. If it's supported in iOS XR V, we'll take a look at it. I am running everything inside of, this will be not inside of VIRL. However, it'll be a VIRL limit of 20 routers, which is what I'm going to be maxing the setup to. I will have 14 iOS XE boxes, and I will have 6 iOS XR boxes. That'll be our size of our deployment, and we're going to be running through this, and we're going to be on 15.5 code here, and we're going to be on 5.3 code here. So you'll know where you need to be. I would highly recommend you download every bit of documentation you can for each one of these iOS versions. Then we're going to start off on going through BGP. And we'll take a look at all of the subsets for BGP, and then once we've opened up, say for instance IBGP, what are all of the different methodologies for that. We're going to break this down on a per technology basis. The idea here is to do, we'll say we start off with RIP. We'll come in here and we'll do peering. Then we'll do authentication. Then we'll do summarization. Then we'll do default routing. And then we'll go through and get some of the other minor tasks. So there will be no serial-based configuration here. So if you're dealing with serial connections, I do apologize, we're not going to be touching them. Actually, I shouldn't say that. We'll touch a little bit on PPP where it's applicable, but we won't be touching frame relay. We'll take a look at PPP and do a deep dive on that, but that'll be strictly in GNS3 because iOS or Viral and the ESXi boxes that we're going to be running don't support serial connections. There's only gigabit Ethernet. So that's going to be how we go about doing this. Now, the intention is to go through the blueprint. So if you were to find the CCIE routes or CCIE service provider blueprint for the lab, take all the technologies on that and take all the technologies from the written, combine them together. That's what we're going to be going through, plus any subtopics. So we're going to go through the setup of going through and hitting whatever's in here and whatever's in here. We're going to be going through them. It's going to be a long period of time. Now, what this is ultimately going to build in this blog is going to be the solutions. What do I mean by the solutions? Well, one of the things that I would like to do is I would like to go out here and on a per technology basis, just a really thorough walkthrough of how the stuff would go through. As I'm labbing something out, I'll be building a blog post, things like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to have another blog that'll be the workbook. And the idea here is the workbook, I'm not sure yet how I'm going to play this part out, but what I might actually do is I might put the workbook inside of like a PDF format or something like that, and then I might charge for that, and then the solutions will be for free. But the solutions are going to be for anybody that wants to know how to do this stuff. The workbook, the actual the writing of the workbook, I might charge, not much. I haven't decided yet. The solutions will obviously take longer to do than the workbook will, and the workbook will be based off of the solutions that I put in place. So I'm planning on doing that, and the reason why I'm doing this is because nobody else has a really thorough workbook. No one else has the depth of no one else. It doesn't seem to me that there's anything else out there like this. And the reason why I'm doing it the way that I'm doing it is because of the fact that I feel like this should be a give back for some things, and that's how I'm approaching this. So the idea that as I move forward through this, there will be a lot of stuff that you may need, you may not need, and if you don't need it, great. It's there if you do, though. So that is the big announcement that I have for right now, and I will be basically I'll be labeling these. They'll be under service provider. So obviously the year and the date will change. So what I'll do is I will come in here and I will say, all right, well, I need to come in here and create a new blog post, and then it'll be on whatever, and it's gonna. My intention is to do a one technology, focus on say RIP, and knock out RIP completely, and then move on to the next one. But it may not work exactly like that, but they'll be available if you want to. And now you might have to question, okay, with the workbook, why would you charge for that? And really, it's going to be scenario based. So there's going to be different use cases for doing different things. So the main factor is the solutions are typically what you buy the workbook for, to put, map a technology to a solution. And the solutions are already going to be done. So I don't know if I'm going to charge. I honestly don't. If I do, it'll be something cheap, that most people can afford. But the irony of it is the moment I put something out online for somebody to buy, pretty much right away, anybody that I don't see a whole lot of effort and value in that to go through the hoops of getting it to be purchasable, because If you're like me, if you know how to Google, you can find it online and then not have to pay for it. So, you know, I guess that's one of my other motivations is, do I really want to make it that way? But I haven't determined that yet, so we'll see. Or, however it decides to go. So this is one of the reasons why I'm doing it the way that I'm doing it and moving forward. So this is specific to service provider, and if you're not interested in service provider, that's okay. There might be technologies that are utilized by service providers that you might come to find and come to need. So type in the Ryker.blogspot.com, check it out, comment if you'd like. My email address is right here, so if you are interested in reaching out to me, do reach out. I will respond as soon as I can. One thing that I will not respond to, though, is if you are asking for handouts, like if you're asking for iOS code, things like that, I'm not going to give it to you. The main reason for that is because I work for a Cisco reseller. So I can't give it to you. So even if I wanted to be a nice guy and say, all right, well, send me your email, here's the iOS code, go forth and be merry, it's not going to work. So that's what's going on. There's a lot of work to be done, and I hope to have the first few blog posts out here very, very soon. They're not going to be as easy to put out as a video would be, and the main reason for that is because I type it out loud. So what the flow is actually going to be like is going to be more like, okay, you have a technology like, say, RIP authentication. I'm going to walk you through, and the intention of this is to walk you through why you would need authentication, what's a use case for it, then what are in the iOS and iOS XR configuration for setting it up, why you would need each thing and what each individual command is going to do, and then like a debug output of that that issue or that situation, so you'll be able to identify good configuration versus bad configuration, and then where you'd be able to verify it in the syntax. So these are all things that I personally feel need to be done. If you really want to become a really rock solid engineer, you need to know how this stuff works. Because when actually just earlier today, I had a customer ticket come across my desk, because I do usually handle escalation issues, especially with stuff that other people can't handle. Is I'll go through and I will focus on that for a little while, and the two issues that I found, it was like, oh, well, this problem solved that way or solved this way. But it's only because of the fact that I know what's going on, and I've tested it out. I know what the expected output's supposed to look like, and for those of you that are interested, that is really what, in my opinion, makes a CCIE. It's not necessarily how fast you can configure something or how many times you explain something to someone. It's being able to quickly and accurately identify an issue and be able to rectify it. You're going to be able to look at the good and the bad and determine which one's correctly set up and incorrectly set up. And then if you look at it, you're going to say, oh, well, that's the problem. Why this is shut down, or this is, you're not advertising the right subnet mask with something or whatever. You're going to be able to quickly identify that. So that's where I'm going with that. I needed to find something that wasn't going to cause an issue with anything that I do with INE and all of the stuff that I do with them, because I'm producing video material for them. I'm not sure if there's going to be a demand for a workbook for CCNA or CCNP service provider like there is for routing and switching, because it's such a it's a somewhat of an obscure track for Cisco. But at the end of the day, this is going to be good for me, because this is me going through the technologies. There's going to be a little bit of raw setup, and what I mean by raw is me going through, and there'll be some things where I'm learning something for the first time and I'm testing it out, and I'll be, okay, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. If you see this issue or this thing pop up, this is why the issue pops up there. And there will be configuration for things that, for instance, I was just testing this out the other day, where BFD on iOS XRV I don't believe is supported, because of the fact that every time I've tried to put it in place and get it running, it doesn't work. So I haven't been able to validate that yet, but I'm hoping that I can do that here very, very soon. So that is what is going on right now. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this. I do hope to do one for, would like to do one for security. I also would like to do one for wireless and data center. However, data center is going to be very, very difficult to do because of the fact that I don't have access to the equipment to do it with. Here I can lab everything up. And that's one of the reasons why I focused on service provider over data center. Now, however, at the same point in time, I am, well, not literally at the same point in time. I'm, like for instance, I'll spend a couple hours on service provider, I'll spend a couple hours on data center. I'm actually going through INE's CCNP data center videos right now for Nexus, and I'm taking a crap load of notes. You know, all I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm watching Brian go through the explanations and, you know, taking notes as I go along, because as long as I can build the commands for it, is I'm watching him do stuff, I'll say, okay, this does this, this does that, because he does a really good job of explaining what each individual command does, why it's needed, all that type of stuff. He answers all those questions that I always tell people, the who, what, why, where, and how. If you answer those questions, you should be an expert on that individual that individual topic or subfeature. So that's really what a CCIE is. CCNA, you go say through 3,000 topics. CCIE, you've gone through 15,000. Well, that's just a number I'm picking off the top of my head. I don't know exactly how many topics that is off the top of my head, but it's a lot more, and that's the only reason why a CCIE is that much better off than a CCNA when it comes to being able to figure things out, because we've seen more. Not saying that you as a person are any better than a CCNA, because I have a CCIE. That doesn't make me any better of a person, when it comes to who I am as a person. It just means that I know more technologies. I'm going to be able to pick things up faster. So that is where I come from on that. So I don't mean any disrespect if you took that the wrong way. So please comment, like, share, however you'd like to do it. And then also email me directly if you have any requests, things like that. If it's something you want me to talk about, I didn't go enough in detail. If you, the one thing that I actually want to do is for any of those of you that have hardware available, there is I'm actually one of the things I'd really like to do is put together a big study group for data center, and where I don't want to use the term crowdfund, but I'd like to be able to put a data center rack together to where people could jump on the rack and play around with it. But unfortunately, that's really expensive to do, because I would want to build it for data center version 2.0. Excuse me. And unfortunately, that's really expensive. And I work for a Cisco Silver partner right now, where I think we're going to be going gold here very soon. Even with their discount, it's like, I think like $200,000. It's a lot of money. And quite frankly, I don't think that's really worth it to go out there and do that, but it is what it is. So, but yeah, that's pretty much where it sits with that. So, like I said, email me. You have my email address now. Don't be afraid. Don't be a stranger. Hit me up on email. If you have requests, throw them in the comments or email me. I do get them. If I don't get back to you right away, please understand that I'm pretty busy. I get back to them as soon as I can, and go from there. So one of the things I'm going to do my very best on is for anything that we do in GNS3, that I will try to provide you with the configuration file, the .NET, for anything that we do, and I'll try to keep it unique, so it's one topology for all of our labs and stuff like that. So this will be similar to what GNS3 Vault did, except for just a different variation of the same thing. So with that being said, you guys have been absolutely awesome. We're almost at 3,200 subscribers, which is, you guys blow my mind every day with the more and more people that subscribe to the channel. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. I can't thank you guys enough. And if you guys have any requests, you have any comments, stuff like that, please reach out. I know that's why we have YouTube. This is why we're using social media, to do what we got to do. I hope that this has been informative for you. I would like to thank you for viewing, and I hope to a very, very interesting future. Guys, take it easy.